The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar Podcast. 4 beer of sports talk and a whole lot more. Join host Brent Radlinski as he bellies up to the bar and gets the conversation going that'll make you think you're sitting in your local watering room. It's sports, beer, and shenanigans, so sit back, grab a few beers, and let's get in it. The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 beer of sports talk and a whole lot more. Tonight's show, as always, is brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420SEAT over there at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great podcasts, such as Craft Brewed Sports. My guys over there, they're recording live right now, trying to get out of the madness of the election night, which we're on here, 2024. And a great hockey podcast is this. They did their third episode. I listened again today. The Three Rails Metro Hockey Podcast by Ryan, Brian, and Daniel over there. Devils, Islanders, Rangers, great hockey talk over there for guys in the tri-state area. So it's a fantastic hockey show that was kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but it's good to see some different sports content other than just football all the time over there, Belly Up Sports, with the hockey guys over there. And tonight we're joined once again, friend of the show. It's almost a regular occurrence now. Eric Katz. We're going to wrap up the Yankees season, what went right, what went wrong, and then start talking about maybe free agency and whatever else we can talk about to wrap up the baseball season in a nice, tidy bow. Eric, how you doing tonight on this election night down in the United States of America? How's your pulse? We don't talk about it. I just want to know how you feeling, how's things. I know the mayhem is about to be, I don't know if it's be over, but all the stuff will be over.
Oh, it's just fine. I mean, I just kind of woke up early this morning and went and voted. And before I went to work, and it only took me about 20 minutes to get through the line. So it wasn't too bad.
That's a good thing. Get out there and vote. No matter which way you lean, it's very important to get your voice be heard, whether you're United States or Canada, wherever it might be. It's very important to if you can't complain if you don't let your voice be heard, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
There you go, Eric. We're just under a week away over the Yankees losing that World Series, and I had. I'm still a bit flabbergasted with that whole way that fifth inning turned out. It's just, and I had Kevin, he's Wilson from Belly Up Sports, obviously, on the show last night. He's a Dodger fan. I want to get his take on it. And I asked a few people over the weekend, what would you be doing? Actually, when the fourth inning, we'll start the fourth inning when the Yankees were up 5-0. What were your plans going on for Friday night? Did probably a different outlook compared to 45 minutes later on that night?
I was thinking, I mean, obviously, you still got a bit of ball game left, so you can't really say it's over. My thought was, okay, here we go. We at least we can get a win here. Go to Dodger Stadium with a chance to bounce to 7, which would be a good deal. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it was crazy the way that all turned out. Like, I was planning to have a little fiesta downstairs and have some friends over watch the game, and how things changed so quickly. A lot of people press blame on Judge. A lot of people press blame on Cole. Obviously, a lot of people press blame on Rizzo. And I read your article today. The way the whole thing turned out. It shouldn't have been a surprise the way the Yankees defense was all season. It just was a culmination of how it all came about at once. But these mistakes that were happening all season long, and the way you wrote it today, I thought it was brilliant. I 100% agree with what you said. What were your thoughts on all that? And Ted, for those who haven't read your article,
I mean, it showed. I mean, if you look at the stats, because now they keep track of base running stats on how good or bad a team is running the bases. And the Yankees were the worst base running team this year. Even the 121-loss Chicago White Sox were a better base running team than the Yankees. I mean, it's no surprise. They would run themselves in the outs. It happened in the postseason. I'm not saying like you run a guy with 2 outs. I'm not gonna go that far, because obviously you want to be aggressive in that spot, and if you're rather than it's 2 outs and the runner's on. But the Yankees, it pretty much their flaws showed at the wrong time. One of them was fielding. They committed like 9 errors, I believe, in 14 of their postseason games. So they clearly had a problem there. It was a problem all year. I think there were only like, I think 4 or 5 other teams that were worse than the Yankees fielding wise. Base running wise, I get that base running in the game now is just atrocious, where they're doing things that you're scratching your head saying that they really just do that. But in the playoffs, that can't happen. It cannot happen where you run yourselves in the outs. Regular season, you can get away with it. Wake up tomorrow morning and be like, okay, put it behind us, another game. But postseason, it can't happen because there's not always going to be a tomorrow.
And it's not just you can say the regular season can happen, not the postseason can happen. Like when the Yankees were able to just out talent Cleveland, and they're able to out talent Kansas City. They just were. Right. They could out talent their mistakes and get by some lesser talented teams, and that's just fact. But when you have a team that's as talented, just as or more than the Yankees are in the Dodgers, this is what you get when you make mistakes. And baseball's such a funny game. There's 162 games, and 27 outs per offensive side in a game, and yeah, you can get away with one here and there. But when the other team makes less mistakes because they're smarter, better baseball players, well, the better team actually just ended up winning. And I think it comes down to something as simple as that. I don't think that the Yankees were or the Dodgers were 3 games better than the Yankees were, but the way it turned out, they made some inopportune errors in inopportune times. Like you think about that, the way that game turned out, a managing mistake in game 1. The Yankees should have won game 1. They should have won. Right. They should have won game 5. They should have been 3-2 going to Chavez Ravine on Friday night. And it just wasn't the way it turned out. Are the Dodgers better? Yeah. Are they better? No.
I mean, I don't think they were as good. I mean, the Dodgers are a great team. I mean, the Yankees, the difference between the Dodgers and Cleveland and Kansas City is the Yankees could narrow in on a guy on both Cleveland and Kansas City that say, hey, don't let that guy beat you. Where Kansas City, it was obvious. Don't let Bobby Witt Jr. beat you.
He didn't.
Yeah. And also in Cleveland, it was don't let Jose Ramirez beat you. And he didn't. And you could just narrow in on those one guy in that lineup where you just say, hey, as long as he does nothing, and we make another guy in that lineup do something, we should be okay. But obviously, you can make an argument for Stephen Kwan, but Stephen Kwan's not really a power hitter. You just got to get him out. But the Yankees could narrow in on those two guys on those two teams and say, hey, as long as he doesn't beat us, we're good. The Dodgers, you can't do that because they have multiple guys that can beat you.
A lot, like, and the thing that made me like my like we talk about my wife a lot on this show, and she watches baseball, she enjoys it, but she was saying if she was a lay person not watching the game, she'd be like, what's the hype on this Ohtani guy? Because Ohtani went 2 for whatever in the series, and I know he was hurt. I get it, but it was like he didn't do anything, and like so if somebody was just watching for the first time, they were like, what's the big deal about this Ohtani guy? He went 2 for whatever. It's just kind of funny the way, because Ohtani wasn't the guy that beat them, right? It's just it's crazy. Like everything's stacked up for the Yankees' favor with Ohtani getting hurt and not doing anything.
It was like, okay, Ohtani was hurt, and also Freddie Freeman wasn't 100%, and I mean that was the frustrating part because Freddie really wasn't 100%. He was hurt, and the Yankees just, the Yankees also had various opportunities where they could have cracked the egg open early, and they didn't get it done. They got to know that, 5 runs against a team like the Dodgers might not hold up because especially when you give them extra outs, you give that team more extra outs, they're going to make you pay, and they did.
If let's put your manager hat on, Eric. I like I said, I read your article, so I want the listeners to hear everything. If you're the manager of the if Eric Katz takes over for Aaron Boone, what do you do differently?
In game 1, I wouldn't have put in Nestor in that situation because Nestor was hurt to begin with, and he was really pushing the envelope with what he could do because he really shouldn't have been out there. I would have put in Tim Hill, and if Freddie Freeman gets a hit off Tim Hill, so be it. It happens. But to put in a guy who's like just put in a guy who's just laboring like that, Also, I would have wanted to see if Garrett Cole could go a little longer. 88 pitches is just, to me, for a guy who can really eat innings, it was a little short for me. I would have seen it if he gives up a single or two, so be it. Fine, I'll bring in a reliever. But a guy like that, you want to ride him and have him and make the other team make you take him out, because Garrett Cole is pitching a fine game, and I think that if he would have kept Cole in, who knows what would have happened, because Dodgers could very easily have hit him. But I would have tried to see if Cole could, I would have made the Dodgers dare me to take Garrett Cole out. And also at the end of the game, I would have gone with Tim Hill. He was lights out in the postseason.
It just seems like year after year, and like they pretty much Cashman endorsed in his year-end review or year-end post-mortem today. He pretty much gave he's going to get the extension. Boone is. I mean, like Michael Kay says it all the time. It doesn't matter who the guy is in charge of the Yankees, the field boss, because they have their analytics guys, they have Cashman, they have this and that. It doesn't really matter who's going to be the guy calling the shots on the field anymore, because he doesn't really call the shots. Because right. So if you fired Aaron Boone tomorrow and said Brent Radlinsky or Eric Katz is the new field boss, you're going to have the same binder, I guess you could say, or the same iPad things or whatever it might be. Yeah, you get to the World Series. Yeah, you had a successful season. Yeah. On and on it goes. And I don't want to be crazy Yankee fans saying, you haven't won one in 15 years. But it's odd to me that you had a guy like Joe Girardi who pushed all the right buttons in 2017 and almost brought that team out of nowhere to win themselves a American championship. They probably would have got smoked by the Dodgers, but I don't know if Boone, and I'm a Boone guy. I am. I've always liked Boone even when he was a player. I'm a Boone guy, but man, oh man, it just seems like something's got to give a little bit.
I mean, this is just as far as the front office goes. Front offices have a lot more power than they used to. It's just the way the game's going. I think a lot of teams are like this. They everybody has a binder and whatever. I mean, it's just the way the game is. I mean, some more than others. Like, a lot of smaller market teams, a lot more than the bigger market teams. But it's just the way the game's going, and I mean, as I say, I mean, yeah, you say hypothetically you were to fire Boone, well, it would be the same thing with whoever comes in. It
doesn't matter.
You would get on his case for the same things you got on Aaron Boone on. During the latter Girardi years, you got on him for the things that Boone is doing now. So really, the cycle it's just going to repeat itself.
Well, that's the thing, Eric, and there's you talk about this year and that year, and you talk about this year and this year, and you go to 2004, you go to 2009, you go to 2013, you go to 2017, you go to when the Yankees weren't very good in Jeter's last 2 years, and there's one constant, it's Cashman, right? And I think until he goes, I don't think you're going to see a big change in what happens in Yankee land. They're successful, they win, but they out talent teams. And I don't know if I don't want to say it's his fault, but when you're given, for lack of a better term, a blank checkbook, and he's very successful, eventually Steinbrenner's got to be like, hey man, like we spent $1 billion and have nothing to show for it. Yeah, we've made a lot of money too, but like, what are we doing here?
I mean, the Yankees are going to make money. I mean, the Yankees are a monopoly at that point where they're going to draw regardless, just because they're the Yankees. So in that sense, the baseball team doesn't matter. It's a monopoly because Yankee Stadium let's just compare Wrigley Field to Yankee Stadium for that matter. No matter how good or bad the Cubs or Yankees are, people are still going to that ballpark. I mean, it's just one of those places.
Okay.
And as far as Hal goes, I'm just thinking, man, you got to go up. I mean, when you haven't won in a while, I mean, George did this to Joe Torre at the end there in 2007. You really got to start asking him the hard questions and start to put a little pressure on him. Yes, the Yankees have never had a losing year under Brian Cashman. Yes, they've been always in the playoff hunt, at least in the playoff hunt. And, with the exception of maybe 2023, which, injuries aside, but they're always, they're always relevant. But the thing is, you got to go up to them and say, hey, I'm spending all this money and you have not, and it's been 15 years since we've had a ticker tape parade. I mean, the pressure is only going to get worse. Is only going to get worse because Yankee fans are not patient. As a matter of fact, with them losing the World Series, it probably amps up the pressure even more to get back Juan Soto.
Well, that's the elephant in the room right there is the Soto situation. I personally didn't care for the way he handled his post gamer.
No, I didn't.
I know he was asked the questions and he was supposed to answer them truthfully, but there's a way to do it, and I think Soto he did the same thing that Cole did in 2020 because they're both.
Cole was blatant though about it.
Blatant about it, like it was. Because they're both Boris guys, and the way everybody's like, at least give me a chance to mourn a little bit. At least give me a chance to not worry about that. I think the way Soto handled that was really poor, because like I'm at a point right now that if because he's only around for 162 games plus 4, 9, 14 playoff games, so 176 games he's a Yankee. You know what? And he didn't win. Like, all right, whatever. And he hit a home run against Cleveland that turns out to be nothing anymore. All right, you're gone. Like, it wouldn't. And just like if he signed somewhere else and didn't say what he did, I'd be like, all right, he was a really good Yankee. Now, if he signed somewhere else, I'm pretty much a screw you kind of a guy, just because his reaction, and because that to me that was all rehearsed. He's told to say by Boris. I don't think he handled that well. Yeah, he's young, but he's been around a long time. I don't think that was handled very well at all.
I mean, don't do it like right after you lose the World Series.
He was asked the question, but just handle it differently.
Right. I mean, at least if it, you could go the Judge route and say, hey, now's not the time, not right now, something like that. Because Judge did that at the end of the 2022 ALCS where he said not right now, which fine. I get it. But, don't be talking what you're doing next right after your team just had a pretty poor game 5. Like don't do
the biggest collapse in baseball history in one inning.
No, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah.
I mean,
the worst inning in baseball history in the World Series.
I'd probably put that on Bill Buckner.
Well, there's a lot of things that went wrong there too, with the wild pitches and the things and the stuff that went on there too. But yeah.
I mean, what would have happened with Buckner though is the game was tied at that point, and it would have gone to extras. I mean, and who knows what would have happened?
Yeah.
But fielding wise, I'd say it's the worst. But I wouldn't say like worst game ever in the World Series, because the World Series has been around a long time. And there's been some pretty bad innings in the World Series. I mean, you could probably qualify the 1919 Chicago Black Sox innings there as some of the worst.
Just the all Soto had to say, and you said it earlier, now's not the time. Yeah, we've talked about it, but now's not the time. Like my teammates here and there were heartbroken. This sucks. We'll talk about it tomorrow, because in general, because we live in such a right now moment in the sports media world. 3 days later, nobody's watching. I shouldn't say nobody, but a good percentage of people aren't watching.
People are just kind of.
They're like, okay, the next thing. They're worried about the football game, the this, that, and whatever else. And so if that conversation happens 3-4 days later when they're cleaning out their lockers, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody cares. It's third down the list of what on the Michael K show or whatever it might be. I thought it was handled really poorly, and I've said this before. Like there's for other sports as well. If you know the owner's name, that's bad. Like Steinbrenner is famous because his father.
Yeah.
But in general, you shouldn't know the owner's name, and you shouldn't know who a player's agent is. Like it shouldn't matter. Well, like right, it should. But Boris is such a huge conglomerate. But Boris, he does that. He picks, and he didn't have a great offseason last year, so maybe he's trying to up his stake a little bit. Like the whole thing was just handled really poorly, in my opinion.
I mean, it's also the type of guy Scott Boras is.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott Boras is very well known in the baseball world and he is despised by many. And this is just what he does. I mean, this is not the first time where he's done something so inappropriate. I mean, I'm sure all of us. This was before social media, but we remember A-Rod's free agency after the 2004 season. I mean, this is not the first time where Boris has done something at the most inappropriate time. So that's just who he is. I mean, it's why he's not loved in the agent community. It's why front offices would rather not deal with him, because ironically enough, what's funny is the team that spends the most money, which in this case is the Dodgers, they don't want to deal with him, ironically enough. And the Braves don't really want to deal with them because they know what they're dealing with.
Driving price up for no reason and bad publicity. Well, you wrap it up. The Dodgers ended up winning. I don't think that it was, like I said earlier on, it wasn't a 4-game-1 sweep. It should have been probably maybe 4-2, 4-3 the way it turned, but it turned out that way. It was just a really tough way to end the Yankee season. But now that the season's over, the signings and the Cole thing was a bit of a fiasco the last 2 days. That was odd to get the same money he had. He opted out. He opted out, but opted back in for the same amount of money. That was odd. What was your take on? I was in a meeting yesterday, and somebody read the notification. I was like, what? Because he's supposed to get an extra year, but didn't get an extra year. Can you explain what really happened there? Because it's odd to me.
I mean, it didn't shock. It didn't shock me that he opted out, because I thought he was going to do that the whole time.
Yeah.
But I had an inkling that part of me also thought he wouldn't, just given the year, given the up, because he had an up and down year last year. He was hurt for a lot of the year and kind of was playing catch up all season. And he, although for playing catch up though, his ERA wasn't too bad actually.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I just thought that. Number one, I just thought like how it worked was, he opted out. He wanted the extra year. Cashman didn't feel too comfy with that, and rightfully so, given how this year went. Which I agree. If he would have gotten another Cy Young, opt 1 year, no problem. But then Cole, who has said in the past he wants to retire a Yankee, didn't really want to leave, so he ends up coming back, and essentially it's like he didn't opt out at all. I just found the situation to be a little strange but at the same time though, Cole had no leverage because he'd go on the open market knowing that he wasn't going to get a deal very much better. Yeah, he's got the Cy Young to boot and a pretty accomplished resume during his time with the Yankees, but there is no way they would pay him what New York is paying him at this point in his career.
Nobody.
There's no way. So like it was a little. I mean, if you were able to pitch all year and you had a very Cole-like year, I could see him going for the extra. I could see the reasoning behind it, but given his age and what had happened and the injury and things like that, there is no way you're going to get a better deal than what the Yankees were giving you. There's no way it would be a foolish decision. You'd make less money if you decide to sign somewhere else.
You wonder if in that 36 hours that he opted out and then he re-upped, or how, I don't even know what or just they threw it in the garbage can and said see you later, played Kobe Bryant for a little bit. You wonder if they took the Boris went around and people, it was just crickets. Like, I know we're good. Because there's only X amount of teams who could afford that for starters. And then like on those teams, they were like, no, we're good. We're good. We're fine. Like it was the whole thing just looked really, really weird.
I think he had a conversation with the Yankees. Brian Cashman didn't want to do it, which that's the one thing I will agree with Brian Cashman on, was the right thing not to do it, given his age and things like that. And then, okay, we'll see how, and then this year, okay, we'll see how it goes. But I'm sure he made a phone call or two, but you have to know he's 34 years old. He had a pretty major injury to begin the year. And he's just, at 30, he's starting to get to the latter state. The sun's starting to set on his career. I wouldn't say majorly, but it's starting to think about it. And he just, it was just a bit odd, but, happy he's back because, he given what he gives the Yankees and given what he did for him in the postseason, I'm happy he's back.
I think we've seen, and this one made me a little bit sad, but the writing's been on the wall for a while. It's going to make too much money, and Labor Day, it's he's done. I think it's just too bad. What's your? It's just I thought he was a really good Yankee. I like the way he played. I like he wasn't the greatest defensively, but I thought he was more than adequate. Anything you can get from your second baseman offensively is great. I don't know if I like him leaving. I don't know, because you see every time you get rid of a guy, you got to replace him, and
Well,
prospects are prospects, and you hope, I guess, and for less money because you want to add different parts and pieces. But what's your thought on Torres probably playing his last game for the Yankees?
I'm not shocked. I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall all year. I mean, if you really wanted him back, the negotiations would have been happening the past offseason, maybe too.
Yeah.
But, the Yankees have been loading up that farm system with infield prospects for a while now. And, when you start doing that and those guys are starting to kind of come of age and are starting to kind of get their itch at getting to the pros, you got to start and wonder, thinking, maybe Torres isn't the long-term guy. I mean, he was a good Yankee offensively, but, obviously defensively he had his problems. And I think that, I mean, it didn't surprise me really. I mean, it was kind of written on the wall all season.
Let's get back to Soto. It's going to be 15 years at 40, 45, whatever it might be. Not like the number doesn't matter. Years matter to me a lot. Like he just turned 26, and you pay for guys for what they've done and then where their career can be, and then the back end always turns out to be not very good. I don't know if I pay a guy that much money, because I don't think you should pay the face of your franchise more, or more than your face of your franchise, which judges, but that's going to get usurped and everything else. I don't know if I bring Soto back for that type of money. I know he's an all-time talent, generational player, and on it goes. But if you can transition to play first base next year or the next 2 years, maybe, like a la Bryce Harper kind of a situation.
Yeah.
What's your I don't know. To me, that's a big number. That's a big number, because you have a lot of holes to fill in your roster, as we saw their faults in the World Series. If you're spending all that dough on somewhere else, you're going to start declining elsewhere too.
Well, it's not, unless you. Well, baseball. Unfortunately, is not a. You just don't. I mean, sure, we have analytics that can kind of predict, kind of give us a clearer picture on what might happen, but it's free agency and baseball with your roster is a constant battle for holes. I mean, you're not gonna get it perfect. It's not going to. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. So you saw what the impact Soto made to the lineup, and the Yankees averaged I think we were just over 5 runs a game. I think they were one of the better offenses in baseball during the regular season. You saw how the fans look. You saw the love story brewing out in the outfield, and you saw him have a career year in New York, 40 home runs and 100 something RBI. It was a great year, and an All-Star appearance.
But he also benefits from hitting in front of Judge, right? So that helps his stats a lot. Like that, everything that he did this year wasn't just because of Juan Soto. He got to hit in front of one of the best hitters of our generation. I mean, right? So that helps a lot.
I don't think he would have the same numbers if he went to Citi Field and was hitting behind Pete Alonso.
Exactly.
I mean, if Pete Alonso, or even Francisco Lindor for that matter. I think
he hit in front of a guy who hit 58 home runs.
Yeah, which obviously
he's going to see more pitches.
Yes, and I'm sure that's got to be in the back of his mind, where he could potentially have a Hall of Fame, where he could easily have a Hall of Fame career and potentially have a monument in Monument Park. I mean, this also, keep in mind too, Soto previously turned down a long-term deal with the Washington Nationals at $440 million, which we thought that money was ludicrous at the time too. And we thought he was a fool for that.
I wish I could turn down 440 sheets. Jeez, Murphy.
I would take that. I would gladly take that.
I would turn down hey, I'll take half of that. I'm good. I'm good.
But I think overall though, I mean, it really depends on, I really believe though that I wouldn't call, no, I don't think any player is worth a blank check.
No.
I think, I wouldn't give him Ohtani money because Ohtani also pitches. But I would say if you go like 600 to 660, I think would be a good number for him.
Hey, that's a big number. That's a big number. I just, I don't know.
Well, anything involving Ohtani is going to be a big number, whether it's 440 or higher.
That's a big number. It's just, I don't know if I would do that just to sake the rest of your team, because you got to find a first baseman, you got to find a third baseman, you got to find a left fielder, you got to find center fielder, you got to find some pitching. There's all that stuff costs money, right? It's just, I don't know. I just don't know. It's.
I'd rather, but yeah, if they lose Soto, which let's just say they do, you could disperse that money elsewhere and kind of bring back a combination of players who kind of bring the same skill set that Soto brought.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's crazy. It's crazy. Let's talk about the other teams around the Major League Baseball this year. And did you have any surprise teams that we thought, they're not bad, they're this team on the horizon, or is there a team that really underperformed a little bit? You got, geez, these guys should have been a lot better. Actually, let's talk American League East. The Toronto Blue Jays, I listen to a lot of that stuff on radio around here, and really underperformed. And right. I just think this is just who they are. I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is okay. I think Bo Bichette's okay. Their pitching's okay, and that's what their record was. It was okay. It was a little less than okay this year.
They really.
Is the East just the Yankees and now the Orioles and just everybody else? Because that's just what the American League East is now.
Pretty much. I mean, Baltimore's got a nice group of young players, and it's really going to come down to with Baltimore is really going to depend on their pitching, on what they do there, because they had some problems. They had a lot of problems this year aside from Corbin Burns.
Yeah.
And although they're getting Felix Bautista back, which will be huge for them, so that'll help their bullpen. But what it's going to come down to is their pitching, which has been a problem for them for a while. I think Toronto's right now in a spot where they're closer to everybody says, oh, they're going to go after Soto. I don't think he's going to go there, because Toronto is closer to rebuilding than they are at contending right now.
He has a less chance than that phantom plane ride last December of Ohtani going there last year. Soto's not going to Toronto.
I mean, right now Toronto's at a point right now where under Shapiro and Ross Atkins they're right now in a spot where they think they're better than they really are.
The Red Sox, they look like they're being in a perpetual state of rebuild right now. And I don't mind, doesn't bother me any. What's going on in Boston?
John Henry won't spend money. He, I think what really killed the Red Sox soul was Chaim Bloom. Whoever were, it doesn't matter whether Chaim Bloom acted on his own or John Henry made him do it. Doesn't matter. It was still done. Him trading Mookie Betts to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they
that was nuts.
And that was bad. And they also, I mean, it was a salary dump with David Price, but David Price still showed he had a little gas left in the tank toward the end of his career with the LA Dodgers, because he wasn't for what he gave them. It really wasn't bad considering where he was at in his career.
Yeah.
And they I think that was one thing that broke him. I think what really shattered him was being unable to get Xander Bogaerts back. That's what really shattered him. Yeah, you can Andrew Benintendi's grow on trees, because that guy's really just a contact hitter. That's all he has been in his career. He's
okay. Like, he's an exciting player, plays hard, plays a Brett Gardner kind of way. Like, he's a good player, but I don't, whatever. There's a guy in college that's going to come and do that next year.
Andrew Benintendi is a poor man's Brett Gardner. And
I agree. I was boarding up a little bit more than I should have probably.
He's not. I mean, I never really thought the guy was that great. Although they got nothing, they got absolutely zero in return for him, and he's just and I think what Boston's deal was, they could spend money. That market's huge enough where they could spend money.
Massive.
I mean, regardless of how, and like Wrigley Field, no matter how good or bad the Red Sox are, people are going to Fenway Park. It's because it's Fenway Park, and people, it's an old time ballpark. It's one of the greatest. But the Red Sox just weren't spending money. I mean, they're thinking they can cheap out of it. They got some nice players like Rafi Devers. Although I wouldn't call him a face of the franchise because I don't think the guy can lead. Because we as evidenced by their collapse late in the year. Also, Brian Bayo, I don't think he's all that. I really don't. I really don't think the guy is what they say he is.
Yeah.
And Nick Pivetta, who's going to be a free agent, although he was, they traded for him, which was, everybody thought it was a good move at the time, but I ended up nicknaming him Nick Rockfetta because he seemed to get rocked every time he got out there. And really, and then they had Giolito last year, which I didn't like the move then. Of course, he got hurt and missed all of last year, but really, Giolito was on 3 different teams and got hit hard on all 3 teams.
Yeah, Giolito had a good day.
He had a 1 year.
Got the no-hitter a couple of years ago, and that
he was
other than Giolito, that's all I would know about the guy.
I mean, he was on. Well, he played for the White Sox and the Sox. And the Sox traded him when the Angels were trying to go all in and do everything possible to foolishly keep Ohtani. And then they ended up dumping him on the waiver deadline.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And then I think he played for Cleveland, which this was Terry Francona's final year, where Cleveland looked like they were playing extinct baseball, which obviously they're good now, but at the time, and he was even worse there. And that's an organization that's known for producing great arms, a great pitching organization overall.
Who's the let's poke some fun at some franchise. I want to hear why. Like, who's the worst franchise in baseball right now that's not the Oakland A's, because they're just the Athletics. They're not even Oakland. I don't think they are. I think that I think their owner's terrible. I don't think the franchise is terrible.
Right. But that's an unfair thing to do. You can't really poke Oakland. They're just in a situation.
Let's not kick a horse while he's down. But what's the worst franchise in Major League Baseball right now, in your opinion?
Right now, I got a couple actually. Well, let's go with the White Sox. Man, 121 losses. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than that.
That's hard to do.
I mean, you got to really try, and obviously to do it in the modern era where you broke the Mets record. Although the Mets kind of get a little. The Mets at the time they were an expansion franchise, so you're getting players that nobody else wants. You're getting players who are just rookies. And you're also getting players that, if they weren't around, they wouldn't even be sniffing a big league roster. So that's but to be in a franchise as old as the White Sox are, and to lose 121 games, it's pathetic. It also comes to show you that, and this was also years in the making, thanks to Jerry Reinsdorf, where it wasn't that long ago they won the AL Central and were in the postseason. It seemed like they would, they had a nice window there just for them to fall right off the cliff, right onto Mag Mile and get hit by a bus.
Like, they've been irrelevant. Yeah, they won a World Series in, what was it, 05?
Yeah, 05.
05. And yeah, they've been irrelevant since they turned their uniforms to what they have now, those pinstripes. I remember they did that, and the gangsters were wearing those hats and the whole bit back in the 90s, late 80s, I think it was, and the Bo Jacksons, and they've been irrelevant for a long time. They dumped that World Series in their laps in 05, but playoff teams here and there, but they've been irrelevant for a long time. Right. And it's crazy because they've been, like you said, they've been around for such a long time. And to have an owner that just doesn't give a shit, just doesn't.
I think, I mean, here's the thing too. I think number one, their biggest mistake was pushing Ozzie Guillen away, because Ozzie Guillen at least got a lot out of those teams. People forget. Yeah. And they've, in their franchise history, they've never been consistently relevant. If you look at their franchise history, they'll have a year where they'll have a great year and they'll do some things. They'll go to the postseason, World Series, whatever. But then the rest of the time, they'll go for a longer stretch of time where they don't do anything at all.
You see the odd White Sox hat around here and there, but yeah, they're just they're irrelevant. And Chicago's one of the biggest cities in the United States, and
a
they should have. I know they split the fan base, but they don't split the fan base. And, well, the Cubs fans are. It's just different. It's just different.
It's a Cubs city. It always has been.
Always has been.
Yeah. I mean, even when the Cubs had that 108 year streak going for not winning the World Series, and the White Sox won one more recently than they did for a while there, it was always a Cubs town, because regardless of how good or bad the Cubs are, or how good or bad the White Sox are, people are going to Wrigley Field.
I think baseball's in a pretty good spot. I asked Kevin last night; he feels the same way. I think baseball is. I think the Major League Baseball's improved its image a little bit. I see a lot more people younger than you who watch baseball a bit more. I'm around a ballpark a lot. I work at one now, so I think baseball's in a pretty good spot. What's your thoughts? Because you're turning 30 this year. What's your thoughts on how baseball's been in let's say in the last 15 years? How has baseball become for you with your friends and people and your coworkers and your peers and things like it? Has baseball improved, gotten better, gotten worse? What's your thoughts about just the word of mouth about the game of baseball?
I think it's improved. I think the games are a lot more faster now. I no longer have to hesitate, which I I thought I would hate the pitch clock, but I actually kind of like it. I think that where without the pitch clock, I was hesitant to go out to a ball game during the week. I really was, just because. Yeah. I don't want the chance of the game lasting 4 hours where I don't get out of the ballpark till midnight, 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And now with the pitch clock, games are about a couple hours. You get a 3-hour game here and there, but the game gets over in a relatively decent period of time, like two hours ish around that window. And I get home at a pretty decent hour, so now I'm no longer hesitant to go to the ballpark during the week. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Like the WCBL that we're a part of, we don't have a pitch clock, and there's times like, holy Christ, you're like, Jesus. And you watch a major league game, like they goes quick. But and the thing about that really slows games down, if you want to get talking about the actual game and not about Major League Baseball a little bit. And I talked to some college coaches. The thing that slows baseball games down a lot is ball one. If pitchers start off with a strike, it speeds things up a little bit, because then they get ahead in the count and on it goes. Also, like where's ball one? It's like, oh Christ, here we go. Like it's going to be a walk.
He's overthinking it, and
yeah.
So
that changes things a lot. Yeah,
I think also too, the players waiting for their walk-up music, because I can't get in the batter's box without my walk-up music. And
yeah, there's that.
And then also that adds time to it. Plus I think plus I think also batters stepping out of the box, messing around with their gloves. I think that
the Nomar stuff, yeah. That went away.
Whereas you're out of the box for a couple minutes there. So I think doing away with all that's a good thing. I like where the game's at, because the action's still the same. I still get aside from the pitch clock, I still get relatively the same game, and I like where the game is at.
Do you find that people your age, because like your demographics a bit different, like your demographics a lot more football centric. People watch football because they're supposed to watch football.
Yeah,
and that's my opinion. But because I know people your age that they don't care who's winning a football game, they're betting.
Yeah.
Or they got fantasy football.
Yeah.
They don't even know who's playing each other. Like they got a 5-leg parlay on something, and then they got this on their fantasy football team, and they don't even know who's playing. Baseball does have fantasy sports, fantasy as well, but I think that the game is bigger. Like football, like I dare I say it, but fantasy football is probably at the same viewing as a football game is. Is that a fair analysis? Whereas fantasy baseball, because the game's a little bit slower and the at-bats matter and longer, you still can watch the game and not let fantasy overtake it. Whereas fantasy overtakes, because all the games run at once. Baseball is too, but I just find that as a sport, baseball's still a better sport for viewership. Am I just old baseball guy?
No, I agree, because now I think people around my age and sport. I think sports betting has actually been a good thing for the sport, because now you got people my age who, who are really into it, will maybe make a bet on maybe Aaron Judge or Rafi Devers hitting a home run, and they'll go to the ballpark watching for it. I mean, I think it appeals to my demographic that way. Plus, now with the pitch clock, since we like things fast, people are starting to come back in that way as well. Because actually, did you know, out of all the big sports leagues, basketball, football, hockey, and basketball, football, hockey. I think the big three. Out of the big three sports leagues, baseball is making the same revenue as the NBA is, and it's a and people say the NBA is like the all get out, which to be truthful, I don't think it is. And now with their viewership is dropping, which was years in the making. Which I can't. I can't watch it. I go to games every now and then, but it's just for me. I don't like what it's become.
What's an NBA ticket cost these days?
Depends on the matchup. Like if you're like, let's just say you want to see LeBron take on Giannis, for example.
Yeah.
In the NBA, you're probably looking at $100-ish. But if you're looking at like a lesser matchup, let's just say the Bucks are taking on the Hornets or what have you, you're probably looking cheaper. It really depends. It fluctuates.
That's what I put effort in. I do. I put effort into watching the NBA, and I just can't.
I haven't watched seriously since 2009.
Like I try. Like the Raptors up here. Like and obviously I'm a 6-hour flight from Toronto, so I don't really care about the Raptors. But like that was pretty cool when they won. But
right.
It's just I think scoring's too easy. I think that
fouls are called for just a guy rubbing up on a guy.
It's just and then the whole guy's not playing very often, rest days and
load management.
I just can't. Like I love the NCAA tournament. Like I think it's fantastic drama. I think it's fantastic. I think it's that first 2 days the best drama in sports.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Unlike baseball players, basketball players are very, very whiny, and like they are like it's a league built on drama, and baseball, and people just want to leave and people when they watch sports, just aside from the game itself, they don't want the outside drama. And but baseball, aside from the drama on the field, you don't really hear about a lot of drama off the field.
Yeah, no, basketball, I can't.
I've lost it with the NBA. They're done with me.
Yeah, it's odd because then you get in arguments about how great it is. I'm like, well, how is it great? And they never really have an answer. It's just it's weird to me.
I mean, football will always be number one. I mean, that's just the way it is. Football will always be number one. It's a
I disagree, and I'll it's fine. It's what it is. And I love college football, but I just can't deal with the NFL. I think it's
not since then. I used to love college, not anymore though.
Oh, really?
And a couple reasons. I mean, it used to be with college football, you get an experience where on the West Coast, they're throwing the ball more. Big Ten was about ground and pound, low scoring games and defense. SEC, you get a little bit of both, where maybe you get some offense, but you'd also get a lot of defense as well. And then the Big East, same deal. And when it was the Big East and ACC, could be some wide open attacks, could be some ground and pound in there. But also NIL kind of killed it, because now I'm seeing kids where when I was in school, we gathered in my friend's little Nissan and would pay for and would pay. We would all split the gas.
Yeah.
And go to a restaurant. Now you're seeing kids driving Cadillac Escalades with NIL.
It is crazy.
I don't like what it's become in that regard.
I don't either. Like I like that they're getting there because those multi-million-dollar operations with Alabama, the USC's, it should have been done and it should have been handled differently. There should have been better way of governing it, and it was just let out and here you go into Wild West, do whatever you want.
It's starting to rein it in. Also, the transfer portal, where you're encouraging kids to, it's okay to quit unlimited times. Where if you're not starting as a true freshman. I quit. I'm going to go to the school that I think I'm going to start at. And then also, it's kind of it becomes a lot like the haves and it becomes truly like the haves and have-nots.
Yeah.
And that's my several. That's mostly I've got several problems with college football, which is part of it. What killed it, and also
I agree.
Conferences are too big now, and it's not like what it used to be, where you'd have multiple conferences where you get a variety, and now it's just the SEC, maybe the ACC, and the Big Ten, or whatever you call it these days.
Great Big Ten pack something 24.
Awful.
I don't know what's going on there. If you're putting what do they call those? A time capsule underneath your house, 2000 on actually on election day 2024. Not only there's an election going on, we won't talk about that a whole bunch. Actually, what's going in that time capsule for the 2024 baseball season that people should remember? What was good? What was bad? What obviously the Dodgers won the World Series, so that's going in there. But what other storylines were really big for 2024 by award-winning sports writer Eric Katz?
I'd say Aaron Judge's like from May onward, when the guy just went back to like turn the clock back to 2022.
58 with nothing in April, really.
Yeah. Where actually Aaron Judge his 2022 he only hit during Judge's 22 he only hit one in April. He actually had more home runs that month than he did. Also, the Soto and Judge experience overall, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed going to the ballpark seeing that, and because actually every game I saw Juan Soto play, and he actually hit a home run. And I'd say what other things that were good? Oh, the Tigers surge in the second half. That was fun. What a story.
That's good for baseball.
Detroit's
a long time team, obviously. Yeah. That's good for baseball for them to be relevant and get more like the Midwest teams. Yeah, they're all right, but they're not.
Cleveland's solid.
Right. And Cleveland's been really good for a long time. We talked about last time you were on that if they're really, really rich owner would just spend maybe, I don't know, $40 million once. You never know.
Right. And, I'd say, Detroit's surge in the second half, man, what a story there. I'd say, what other things that were good? That's, I'd probably say Garrett Cole having missed most of the year. That was tough. That's not fun.
No.
And actually, I dropped in the office when I first heard the news on that. I dropped the loudest F-bomb known to mankind.
It happens.
It was a nuclear F-bomb.
Eric, the older you get, the more accepted it becomes. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's like, oh, whatever. He's mad about something again. I don't know, whatever. He's mad at the Yankees. I don't know, whatever. It's just funny the way that works.
At this point in my age, I've stopped caring. I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna say it and you hear it, too bad.
Yeah.
Welcome to the world. And what other things that weren't good? I think it was I think Mike Trout getting hurt again. That's not fun. I like Mike Trout. I wish he'd stay healthy.
What's going to happen there?
They're going to move him to first base and probably have him be a designated hitter.
And then just hope.
Yeah, and hope the body holds up. Otherwise, if his body continues to do it, he's going to have one of those what if careers, which he already has.
I think he already does. Like I think that's the thing with Trout. Like it's too bad. I think he already has that what if because he really doesn't. He plays in anonymity down in Anaheim.
Yeah,
and like East Coast people never see him play, and and you got to think he's got that still long-term contract in Anaheim. What's his care level? Like he's got young kids now, and you know what? I'm rich beyond belief, and if I get another bone spur or whatever it might be, you know what? I'm good. I think it might get to that point because you play on a non-competitive team and you haven't played a bunch in how many years, and you might go, you know what? I'm kind of used to not playing.
His body is failing him at this point in his career,
and that's the thing. Like I said, he's rich beyond belief. I don't play much anyways.
Right.
My body already hurts. Like, why would I play another 5-6 years for a team that's not going anywhere? Like, is it maybe he's going to be like this?
At this point in his career,
podcasts are. It's like, oh well, I was good, but yeah.
He's 33 now. He's 33 now. And you get to that point in the career where the sun is going down. It's like, unless you're like, I mean, I obviously players are playing into their 40s now, and it's becoming more common. I think part of that too is you took tobacco out of the game, which would break the body down. But he's 33. There's going to be a time where your gift is going to go away. He unfortunately for Trout, we were robbed of that. He's not the first nor the last player we were robbed of seeing and saying, what if he didn't get hurt? There's been many players over the years.
In many sports. Yeah, I think because once you're gone for a while too, like I said, obviously, like I just said, you go, I'm good. But then once you try to come back, because you hit in the cage and you can do this, but hitting live pitching is a lot different. And being on the road is a lot different. The travel and the everything and the media grind and all of it's a lot different.
Trout's at the point of his career where Mattingly was later on, where just to get on the field, you had to do all this treatment, get in the tub, do all this treatment just to get on the field.
Yes.
And there comes a point in time where it just becomes unenjoyable. And Trout's an older player now too at this point, and he's got to be sitting there thinking, is this really worth it? Because eventually, when you hurt the body enough, you won't be able to use the body. And at this point in his career, he's 33. If he gets hurt again, it's just gonna keep taking longer and longer for him to heal. He's no longer in his 20s. He's no longer that babyface kid who came up and rocked baseball.
Yeah, I just think that his best days behind him, and his give a crap level might be at that point. Like,
I'm not worried about the give a crap level. I'm not worried about that because knowing the kind of person, seeing the kind of person he is. But at this point, his body is failing. He's 33. He is no longer that babyface kid who went on an insane run, capturing MVP award after MVP award and All-Star game appearances and Gold Gloves and the like. He's no longer that player. At this point, we're going to be lucky if we get 100 games out of him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, is who's a more like obviously Mattingly's not, but if you put the two guys up, if Trout were forced into retirement tomorrow, and said, that's it.
I'd probably get angry if they put Trout in the Hall of Fame and not Mattingly. I think
that's my question: who's a more likely Hall of Famer, Don Mattingly or Mike Trout? Don Mattingly.
Probably, yeah. If they were, to
but that might be because he played in the West Coast and you get to see him a lot and the stuff, right? But
if they were to put Trout in before Mattingly, I would get really, really angry at that.
It's crazy. Like I don't feel
bad.
They're
already electing guys now who've had careers just like Don Mattingly had, like Joe Mauer, for example.
Joe Mauer's a Hall of pretty good. Hall of really good, not pretty good. Hall of really good, in my opinion.
Well, to his credit, though, he had 3 batting titles as a catcher, and he sustained offense at a position where it's insanely hard to sustain offense. Where you're popping a squat on your knees for a majority of the game, and it's just and I think that but how Mauer was able to, that's why he got in though, was he was able to sustain offense at a position where you don't generally sustain offense.
Yeah.
Where
actually I shouldn't be so hard on Mauer. He was a really good player.
I think it's kind of like how he's the equivalent of he's the equivalent to what Thurman Munson means to Yankees fans. It's also how much he means to Twins fans as well.
Well, if Mauer plays in New York or Mauer plays in LA, if Mauer plays in Boston, he's a guaranteed. He already is, but that's one of those things. Minnesota's kind of in that abyss world. Two more questions. Two more, and then we'll go to 5 easy questions after a little break. Where's Soto going?
Is there like an option E?
No, where's Soto going? Where do you think he's going?
Boy, this is hard. I really think, given I think personally he did enjoy being a Yankee, given how he was pointing to the fans during the game, signing an autograph mid-game. Players just don't do that anymore. They very seldomly sign autographs to begin with during a game, much less in the middle of a game. He hitting behind Judge. He's going to put up Hall of Fame like numbers if he stays hitting behind Judge.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be honest, the Yankees have a pretty good track record of keeping players in their prime, with the exception of Robinson Cano. And he, which the Yankees ended up being right about that, but just for the wrong reasons. And I think that, nobody would want to leave. Everybody dreams of wearing Yankee pinstripes. Nobody says when they go to bed at night saying, I want to play for the New York Mets. What the hell? And why would you want to skip a place where it's a hell of a lot of fun to play to a place where they seem to blow it when it matters every time?
I think he ends up back in San Diego. Great place to play. They haven't won. He could bring thing and be a hero forever. And it's warm. It's nice. I think he ends up back. And that owner's not afraid of spending money.
Peter Seiler's no longer with us.
But that group they don't mind spending money. Like I think he ends up back in San Diego.
There is no way they're going.
That's where if I was a projected Hall of Fame baseball player, that's where I would go.
Well, it's not a hitter friendly ballpark.
Doesn't matter. San Diego's awesome.
There's no way. He did not fit that clubhouse is still relatively the same. There's no way he would fit into that clubhouse. We saw how it went when he was there the first time around.
True. Yeah.
I don't see San Diego doing it because they tried it already, and there's a reason they traded him. I mean, they didn't want to keep him. They couldn't keep him then when he had went before they traded him to the Yankees. What makes me think that they're going to pay even more money to try and have him
he wasn't signed no matter what. He left. He got offered $400 trillion when he was in Washington.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the offer might have been in San Diego. Question number 2 before we get to 5 easy questions before a little break. Give me 5 teams. Break their hearts right now on the 1420 podcast, election night 2024. Give me 5 teams that Eric Katz guarantees does not win the World Series next year. 5 of them.
Well, the obvious, the White Sox.
Yep.
The Rays.
Yeah.
I just don't think the Rays have the bats right now. Let's see, who else?
That whole thing might have gone. That whole get in analytics, that thing might have gone away.
Also, the Angels.
The Angels are not winning. You're right.
The Pirates.
Pirates probably aren't winning.
Also, the Blue Jays.
The Blue Jays are probably not winning. Yeah. My wife, she's went back downstairs. She's going to get mad when she listens to this tomorrow, but whatever, one of those things. No, I agree. There's probably 5 more easily that you probably pick. And that's the one sad thing with professional sports is that you could go like a 30-team league, or hockey's got 32, and so does football. You go before a season even starts, there's 10, 12, 15 teams. You're not winning. And that's crappy for a lot of fan bases.
They also, here's the thing too the difference between hockey and football is they both have salary caps, so it gives everybody a 50. In theory, I don't think it does, but in theory, it's supposed to give everybody a shot at the apple. But here's the thing about baseball: we have too many cheap owners.
Yes,
they take from the rich to take for themselves. The opposite of Robin Hood.
Yeah,
I went on a rampage on this not too long ago.
I read your article about that today. If you got to spend money about baseball, you have to spend money.
In order to win the World Series, I'm just going to go by what history has told me the past 10 years. You have to be at least in the top 10 percentile in money spent. I'm not saying money is going to guarantee you a World Series because it hasn't. It never does. Because ultimately, the players ultimately have the final say on what happens on the field. You got to spend money. I'm sick and tired of teams like Oakland and Tampa Bay taking from the rich just for them to line their pockets with more money so they can buy themselves a nicer boat. And I don't. This is the problem, and we saw with the National League this year. It was the mediocre league where a bunch of teams who were most years wouldn't have a shot at the playoffs had a shot at the final wild card spot, and I believe that wild card team got bounced right out of the stadium back on a plane back home.
No, it's crazy. Like you got to spend. It doesn't guarantee a championship, but it helps.
I mean, you got to at least.
That's right.
You cannot expect a bunch of rookies to bring you World Series luck. That's only happened once, and actually, it never happened. The Kansas City Royals had some experience under their belt when they were able to bring home the World Series that year. Actually, they went 2 years in a row, but it hasn't happened since. It's been almost 10 years since that happened. I suggest you open your money in your bank account and start buying some real players.
No, I agree. It's absolutely ridiculous that there's players out there and they have money to spend and they just don't. It's insane.
I went on a rampage. I'm sure when you read the article, you were probably thinking, "Gosh, Eric, tell us how you really feel."
There you go. I did. Yeah. No, it's funny. You put some pretty good stuff out there. It's pretty blunt pretty blunt attitudes, and I like it a lot. It's very good. Let's get to our friends over here at Righteous Felon. We'll come back with 5 easy questions. Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky. Thanks to our friends over there at Righteous Felon Jerky for supporting the Belly Up Media Network and bellyup.com for their support. Use promo code BELLYUP at righteousfelon.com for the best in craft jerky. Rip up a bag tonight when you're sitting there watching the election, or tomorrow, whatever you're watching, the post-mortem or post-happiness, whatever side you're going for. It doesn't much matter to me here at 1420 World Headquarters. It matters, but I'm not getting into it. Anyways, Eric, always a fun little time to finish up a story, finish up a night on the show here. 5 easy questions. You know how it works. You can't be wrong. You can't be right. The court of public opinion, I guess you can be wrong. Ready to go? 5 easy questions?
Yes, I'm ready to go.
Favorite song of all time? Not right now, all time.
Oh, boy. I'm going to have to go with Kid Rock, First Kiss.
All right. First Kid Rock reference in a long time here on the 1420 podcast. 2 things that don't belong on pizza.
Anchovies and spinach.
That's right. That's right. It's like I know you can't be wrong or can't be right usually on 5 easy questions, but you're right on those ones. I don't understand the anchovy. I don't understand it.
It's disgusting. It's salty and
they're horrible. They're awful. Horrible. They're awful. Halloween, the week ago, favorite candy bar. What do you got?
I'd go Snickers. And actually I did go to a Halloween party this year.
What did you dress up as?
I dressed as Playboy's Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner, attaboy. Yeah. Jesus, Eric, button down a little bit, the smoking, the
robe,
smoking jacket, the robe, the whole bit.
I had the robe, I had the button down, I had the pants, I had the shoes, I had the pipe, and I had the captain's hat and the shades.
Jesus, big, sexy Eric. There you go. Good to hear. Most hated athlete of all time.
Most hated athlete of all time. I'd probably say LeBron James.
Really?
I'd probably put him up. I mean, what sport though? I mean, you have to
all time. No, just athlete doesn't matter.
Most hated athlete all time. Probably Michael Vick. Just for obvious reasons.
Well, there's a little situation with some dogs and stuff for sure. That's a little sidebar. I found that mesmerizing when that first came out in 2004. I think it was, or 6
or 7. I was on vacation when that happened. I remember when it broke. I was on vacation
because he just signed that big deal, and I was just like, dog fighting must be lucrative because he just pissed away a ton of money. But then he got another $250 million, $300 million contract anyways. I remember where I was when that happened. This was back when I was on vacation, and this was back when resorts would have like a quote unquote TV room. Well, now I don't think they really have them anymore. They've kind of become like chill. I don't know what they are now. Yeah,
but I haven't been there in years. This was back when they would actually have a TV room where you go in there and whoever got there first got the TV and chill. Yeah. And I remember that being broken up on TV. They were blacking out voices. It was crazy.
It was crazy. Michael Vick, most hated player. And how he ended up on TV afterwards as an analyst. I was like, What the hell?
Mike,
I found that odd. I just found that odd.
Mike Vick paid for his sins.
Oh, yeah. 400 million times probably.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, because you're just turning 30 years old now, Jesus, 24 years ago. So you would have been 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
A young Eric Katz, fledgling sports writer, sitting in front of the TV. Brittany or Christina, who was better?
I'd probably say at the time it was Brittany.
Brittany? Now?
Yeah. Even now, yeah. Just
Brittany?
given the talent she
one?
had. Yeah, absolutely. Brittany was the popular one.
There you go. Brittany or Eric. That's funny. I don't know
Brittany,
why I even thought of that, but one of those things.
Sure.
No, Eric, always fun to have you on. Your baseball knowledge and your enthusiasm is always appreciated coming to the Sports Bar. Mm-hmm. We talked a while ago, I think 2 or 3 times ago, about doing a remember when situation. I talked with Kevin last night about that. We'll talk about it a little bit off air, but it's not the worst idea we've ever had to talk about different generations, how we perceive all-time moments in sports. You up for something like that?
Sure.
Yeah, why not? Might be a lot of fun. Anyways, the 14th. Oh, Eric, first off, tell us where you're at and tell us what you got going on.
Oh, you can follow me on my Twitter at Sports Team News, or you can find me at bellyupsports.com, where I'm always cooking up a spicy baseball article. Whether you like it or you don't like it, you need me to be relevant.
There you go. No,
then,
I quite enjoy it. Yeah, it's good.
And then I probably have now with the off season beginning. This is where the takes just get hotter. So I'll be cooking something up. I already got something up about Alex Bregman leaving Houston.
That's going to be a hard sell for some fan bases. I mean, it's been a few years and everything else, but Bregman's got one of those punchable faces. I've just never been. I've even like without the scandal and the 17. Whatever. I'm past that. But he just has that punchable face to me.
I mean, he's a good player though. I mean, I think I think Seattle and Detroit are going to try and get him, because Seattle is offensive. They're more desperate than a homeless man on the corner for some offense. And Detroit, they could use a big bat in their lineup. I think they're ready. They got an opportunity to really open up a window here where they could be there with the Guardians contending for the division, especially with the Twins starting to kind of slowly go down. The Sox are the Sox, and and Kansas City. Well, depends on who they bring back. So Kansas City might not be as good as they were this year. So they could very easily make it.
I heard 106-year-old Waka's coming back, so they're set. They're good.
I mean, I would have gone after Seth Lugo, who had a nice year.
I think you're right. I think Seattle eventually has to go for it. Like, enough of this living in mediocrity.
You had pitchers. You had your entire rotation, which is like this day and age in baseball, it's downright impossible. You had your entire rotation healthy all year, and it was the best pitching staff in baseball, and you wasted it.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only that, you made your manager find out he got fired via social media, rather than you approach him man to man and say, "Hey, we're going to go in a different direction." I get going a different. He would have I get it happens. I mean, if it wasn't going to happen during the season, it was going to happen after the season. I'm not saying he didn't deserve to leave, which he did, judging by they didn't win enough games. That was it. But you let him find out that he got fired over social media. You could probably pluck that into the machine of not good.
No,
what's that?
That's crazy.
You think he's gonna have any respect for you when you're out looking for a new manager and his buddies just happen to call him saying, "Hey, how's this guy?" "Oh, I found out my firing over social media."
Well, that's just it. These guys all talk, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you get fired, traded, signed, blah, 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 and you're the fourth to know, I'm good. Good.
That's why James Click didn't interview for the Red Sox job, which I'm sure he called Chaim Bloom. And I'm sure he called up Chaim Bloom, because they worked together in Tampa for a very long time.
Yeah.
And he calls up Chaim Bloom saying, "Hey, what was it like working for John Henry?" That guy's a jerk. Don't work for that guy.
This is way before social media, obviously. When I played junior hockey here in Canada, I got traded a couple of times, and whatever, it happens. But I had a girlfriend in a different town. And I got traded on a Saturday night, and I didn't find out till Monday morning from the coach. My girlfriend told me on Sunday morning. And she says, so when you coming back home? And I said, what? I said, like, Christmas or the end of the season, maybe. She goes, you got traded, she told me. I said, what? So I didn't know. And then so I went to practice on the Monday morning, and I got called in the GM's office, and I said, what's up? He says, well, I said, I already know I got traded. I said, I knew on Saturday. He goes, oh, sorry about that. It's one of those things. So it's been happening before social media as well, Eric. It's one of those things. It's funny. True. But I'd rather you'd rather have the golden handshake from your boss.
I'd rather the boss just tell me he doesn't want me. I go into the office and be like, hey, we're going to go in a different direction. Approach me man to man.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And then you let me go. Fine. I get it. These decisions are made all the time. And in baseball is not, and coaching and managing in sports is not a marriage. It's all about wins.
Yeah, it is. No. And I agree with you. The Mariners have to eventually do something. Like they've been just licking irrelevant.
And how does Terry Capoto still have a job?
Well, and that's what that's what managers do, or general managers do. They get everybody else and blame the other guy first.
Well, at the moment though, since he fired Brant Brown earlier in the year, and then obviously he fired Scott Service later in the year, all the heat now is focused on him.
Now he has to, right?
And now, you
can't fire the owner. Hey, you can't go up the owner and say you didn't spend enough money. No, this is on you, man.
No, I mean, there's plenty of places. There are plenty of places where people are having success where the owner's not spending money.
There's a lot of owners should get fired, but that's another podcast for another day, Eric. Thanks very much for joining us here. That was a lot of fun. Go enjoy the election night, 8/18 there.
I'll try.
Yeah, it's a lot. Anyways, the 1420 Sports Bar podcast, 4 Beer Sports, talking a whole lot more. This show's brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420POD or seat at SeatGeek.com today. Save yourself $20. It does. Remember, it doesn't matter where you are; it's who you're with, and smart people. But Eric, thank you very much, and we'll do this again very, very soon.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar podcast. 4 Beer with Sports, talking a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it. That was good once again, sir. Thank you.